Ms. McDonald is here, Ms. Schaub is here, Ms. Rye is here, Mr. Bailey's here, Mr. Mills is excused, Mr. Stranko is here, and the chair is here. We have proof of notice of the meeting appropriately done. Today, the first order of business is the election of officers. I'd open nominations for the entire slate of offices, please. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, recognizing your outstanding service to the board, I would at this time nominate Jessica McDonald as chair, Adelaide Schaub as vice chair, Laura Wright as treasurer, and myself as the secretary.
Are there any other nominations? Lacking other nominations, I move we close nominations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Nominations are closed. All those in favor of the acclamation or voting in favor of the slate as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The new officers are elected. Congratulations. At this time, I will vacate the chair and ask Ms. McDonald to come to the chair.
And I would say thank you to Jessica and Adelaide for agreeing to do
Yes.
this.
Damn, I thought I was moving.
Thank you, Tim.
Everybody move over.
Thank you to you.
And to you.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, and who was the second? Over there. The nominations.
That was Brent.
Brent, thank you.
He was just relieved his name wasn't on the list, so he's ready to go.
It's nice to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just going to be confused.
No.
All right. I believe we have no correspondence. Is there any public comment? No. We do have a presentation from Kim Reed, who's the planner in the city of Nitro, and she runs their land reuse and preservation agency. So this is just sort of an open session for everybody to get a little bit of information about what Kim has done in Nitro, and you can all feel free to ask questions. This is just because we said, let's see what other people are doing. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining us.
Kim, we admire your work from all the way up here in Morgantown.
Well, I really appreciate that, and it's great to hear, and I have sort of a standing presentation that I do for people when I do this kind of talk, so I am prepared to share a PowerPoint if you guys want to watch something, or like me to show you a few things, or I can just answer some questions. Like, I don't really know what exactly you would like for me to do for you guys, but I'm prepared sort of for anything, so.
I think if you have a presentation, that sounds great, and then we'll chime in with questions if we have them.
Okay, it's not a very long presentation, so if I can share my screen, I will get started.
Is that not the typical municipal government office right there?
Get white.
Sorry, I have a million other projects that I'm working on my screen, sorry.
Can you
So what we have done in Nitro is very much relates to demolition. But I would like to preface this presentation by saying to you guys that when we started our land reuse agency back in 2019, we knew that if private investment was going to happen, that they would be making their investment, right? Like, we knew that it was going to take intervention because the private sector wasn't doing what we felt needed to be done. So City Council put some money aside. We started out with about $1 million to begin with to address, this is pre-DEP refunds, okay? So we decided that, this is pre-COVID, so we decided that we were going to make a long-term plan for our community, specifically addressing commercial properties from 20th to 40th Street, which we wanted to, and for those of you who have never been to Nitro, 20th Street is where City Hall is, and 40th Street is down by the interstate. So it's more of a commercial district, but it was certainly, it's very mixed use. So there's business, house, business, so we wanted to address that. So that was the main primary goal with our creation of our land bank. And plus, we had already been buying delinquent tax tickets through the county tax liens using our municipal home rule So we decided to create the land bank so that we could take more of a directed approach at that. So with that being said, once we got direct funding, we had already acquired almost 15 properties at this point out of our own pocket. So when we started getting money from the REAP program, this was the one issue, and you guys can see my slides, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this was the one property that we wanted to address right off from the get-go back in 2018. This was sort of the antagonist, if you will. This is it looks occupied, but it really was not. It was an abandoned thrift store that the owner's husband died, and she moved to Kentucky with her children, and then just left the property and never did anything else with it. So clearly you understand that what kind of blight that put on our community, and we decided that we were going to have to acquire this property and figure out a way to remediate it. And so we did that rather quickly over the span of a year. We purchased it, we acquired the property, we assisted in the demolition. And so in 2021, that entire city block was a vacant lot that had a new construction on it, and we sold to Taco Bell. And Taco Bell is now one of the highest grossing Taco Bells in the valley, and it's a beautiful new addition to our extension of our downtown project. And if you'll notice in the background, there's a big brown building, and that plays a very big role in where we decided to go. We said, oh, let's just keep going, because this next 2 city blocks is littered with blight and vacancy and dilapidation. And we decided that we could not stop. We needed to increase our intensity, and the community agreed with us and wholeheartedly supported our movement. So then we had our big kickoff with the REAP program. The DEP came, the state auditor at the time, Jamie McCuskey, came, myself, my mayor, we're standing there giving the long-held rah-rah speech that this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the future. And we were the first funded program with the DLAP money. So our whole process was we were identifying, demolishing, and reclaiming dilapidated properties. And yes, some of them were residential, but we at the Nitro Land Reuse Authority, we're a little different than every other land bank in the state of West Virginia. We're an economic development board. Like, we care about residential properties, and we absolutely want to put vacant lots back into private sector to build homes, but we're in it to improve the community that we live in. We're here to entice people to want to live here. And yes, you might want to live in a place that has a beautiful home, but if your downtown footprint has nothing to offer, then those people are going to go outside of your community and spend money elsewhere. And that was not what we wanted. That was not the point. So we decided to focus more on commercial and economic development. I like to call it forced development. So this is right beside of the Taco Bell. And, well, this is 2 blocks over, but this was all owned by one terrible slumlord, and we were able, after years of asking him, please let us purchase your properties. Please let us purchase your properties. We paid fair market value for every one of these properties. So please believe me, nobody was forced to do anything. Everything we bought because we knew it was an investment in our community. So I'll quickly go through these, but it just gives you the idea of how much disrepair the properties were in. And we spent, I would say, $180,000 in tearing all these down with the REAP money. But when it was all said and done, this is what it looked like before. So there's Taco Bell, there's the grocery store, right? And then all of this is gone now. Now, it looks even different now because we've had a complete redevelopment, so I haven't updated my slide. But now this road right here is gone, and we had one holdout that wouldn't sell to us. But all of this property that you see is now 1 acre of developable land that we're selling shovel ready. We relocated the sewer lines with our ARPA funds, and we did, and you'll notice the other building over here in the left is gone too, because we also tore that down because it was not a functional building. So we spent a lot of money and time and resources knowing that this was going to change the footprint of our downtown investment, and we already are under contract on this property for a very substantial amount of money to recoup what we put in. And we decided that we were going to go on down the streets. So we bought some properties, less than fair market value, obviously, on some of these, but we acquired these properties and we tore them down. And one thing I want to stress to you guys about the importance of strategically purchasing properties is I had a suspicion that our first responders were experiencing a very dramatic change based on where we were strategically buying from. So I asked our Deputy Director of Operations for Metro 911 in Kanawha County, and I asked them if they could run a series of reports for us. And so Rick McElhenney sent me an email that said there was a 74% decrease in law enforcement calls on the 30th Street block of Nitro from 22 to 23. And this is such a large decrease that he went ahead and attached reports to show the specificity of each call. So I believe the proof is in the pudding that when we were removing the blight and dilapidation, we were also removing the stress to our first responders, police, fire, and emergency 911. And we've showed this to legislators to say, please don't defund this program. Look at what it's doing. And we are the ones that can give you a shot-by-shot slideshow of the progress plus the impact to first responders. If that's, we have more economic facts, but that's a really moving piece, okay? And we have since purchased this property that you see right behind it for fair market value from the property owner with the remaining funds we had of ARPA, so that now we have a full city block there as well. This was sold to us because the person did not want the property anymore, and it was a hoarding situation, so it was really bad on the inside. So we used ARPA funds to tear it down, but not to purchase it. So we brought Loftus in, and immediately after the site was leveled, a private property developer came in and built two identical homes side by side, and they both sold for $199,000 6 months ago. So now, currently, two beautiful new homes, and the neighbors on that street are extremely happy because their property values have increased. And this is a house that we purchased from a tax speculator out of Florida. There was a massive fire in the back, and you can kind of see on the back there, the hole was so large we couldn't even board it up. So clearly, we couldn't do much with this property. It got torn down. And another contractor came in and said, I'd like to buy that, I want to build a house. And so we sold it for $1,000, and literally within 1 year, this house that sits here today sold for $224,000 after being on the market for like 6 months. And so we had a tour come from National League of Cities, brought groups of other land banks from all over the country to Nitro and Charleston to look at examples of what our land banks are doing. And we, the property owner was gracious enough to let us do a tour of the house, and we let people from Georgia, Florida, New York, Michigan walk through and see and ask questions about West Virginia building prices and standards and all the good real estate questions that I almost barely knew the answers to. But it was nice for other people to get to see really up close a project that we had oversaw from beginning to what I would call like fruition, and now there's a happy family that lives there. So we decided, yet again, let's just keep moving. Let's just keep on going down. This had been a vacant commercial business for almost a decade. And this house was owned by a tax speculator who let it sit vacant for 15 years and never did anything with it. And it was always getting broken into. It was always, we were having to mow the grass. Like, $15,000 liens from property maintenance that the city had to absorb. So finally, after threatening litigation, we did get the property owner to sell us the property so that we could develop this commercial structure as well. And one of the reasons that we were able to compel was because it was always being set on fire by someone who was cold, trying to get warm. And on this particular day, this really resonated with the legislature when I showed them this slide, because, you know, we had 5 responding entities to this fire. Because our houses are built so close together, like when one catches on fire, it's a real danger to the neighborhood. So I said, you know, what if you lived in Taze Valley, or what if you lived in St. Albans or Poca and your home was on fire, but these people were over here assisting us because a random tax speculator's house who hasn't been lived in 15 years keeps getting broken into and boarded up and burned down because they won't do anything about it. So I'm very happy to say that we got those properties, we got them torn down. We since have torn this down. I just hadn't got a chance to update my aerial view, but now this property is on the market as, you know, a very realistic commercial property that can be purchased on the private market and invested upon. And so in our first phase of our DEP REAP program, we were awarded $350,000. We had 4 commercial demolitions completed and 15 residential, for a total of 19 properties. We really made our dollar stretch, and that was me doing strategic demolition and not having our demolition contractor ping pong all over town. And I would say that was a very successful program. But I will say we owned 3/4 of the properties that were on that list. So keep that in mind. We did not have to fight people to do the right thing for their communities, especially because none of the people who own these homes live in Nitro. They're in Florida, they're in another state, they're not here. They're not living in these communities in which they're contributing their blight to. So on the second half here is our program that we are currently going on in phase 2, which we got $234,000. We got a late start because we had to fight so many, we couldn't find property owners, right? Like you can't notify somebody who cannot be found. So we had a lot of issues, but I am happy to say that 4 of the properties have been torn down, and we got hit with some weather, so obviously, you know, we've had to slow down for the past week and a half, but we are going to start back next week, and we will take down the remainder of those properties by the end of February. So I just wanted to give you that brief overview of our program and kind of what we are focused on here in Nitro, and would love to take any questions you may have.
I do have one, Kim. Thank you for your time, first of all, and for the interesting presentation. Once you guys drop the buildings and clear a lot and you want to put it in the marketplace, do you have an entity that's marketing those lots for you, or how do you get into the marketplace to get these lots moved into final ownership?
Well, it's been a little bit difficult because we tried many different things. First and foremost, when it's a residential lot, and it's not acquired through the tax sale process, if we buy something at fair market value, we don't intend to offer it to the adjacent property owner, right? However, with that being said, when it's a tax sale acquisition, not only are we legally obligated by the state of West Virginia to offer it to the adjacent property owners at the same price that we paid for it, but we did a lot of side lot acquisition. We let a lot of neighbors buy these vacant lots for $100. Like, we just wanted to get the property back under responsible care and productive tax rolls. So that was our #1 priority for a lot of our vacant lots that were residential. Now, if they were buildable lots, we did not necessarily want to make a profit off of it, but we knew we were never going to make our money back. But if somebody immediately came in and built a home, the city was getting B&O construction, and then we would immediately start getting an MSF from that. So we sort of said, we'll let that lay out in the wash. We would put yard signs in with my phone number, like if you're interested in this lot, please call. It's also a legal requirement to have a website with all of your available properties listed, so that people know how to figure out why there's a vacant lot in their neighborhood. We were also just still putting out yard signs. Now, we tried to use a realtor, and we did that for about 6 to 8 months. Unfortunately, the commission really got us. We were sometimes paying the realtor more than we were making on the property. So after our, not for commercial necessarily, but on our, we sold a few lots residentially, and we definitely paid the realtor more than we made from the sale. And so we decided that no matter how difficult it may be for us to offload properties, it's still not financially feasible to bring a realtor in. Now, we might consult a realtor for questions or whatever, but we also consult appraisers and lawyers, but we're not retaining them, we're not paying them. So we are going for our commercial lots, a different route with large structure signs for available commercial property instead of just like a little yard sign with a phone number. We might put a little bit more information on that yard, on the big sign for the commercial lots, than we would for the vacant lots. But people call us regularly looking for any lots that may be available. So I spend a lot of time on the phone with people, inviting them to our board meetings, explaining how we accept offers, which for us, you just make an offer on the property. The board, I always say, the board can do 3 things. They can accept it, they can decline it, or they can counter. So whatever you're willing to pay for it is what we're asking people. We take a lot more discernment with commercial property because we care what goes in there. And I'm not going to sell you a property that you're going to set on for 10 years. So we are into deed restrictions, and we make you complete a development plan with an application as well as proof of funding. And if you are not in compliance with city fees, or if you're not a good tax roll actor, you're not eligible. So we get to really be a little bit more nitpicky with who we sell to, because we are not going to and make this kind of investment to perpetuate bad practices.
So the deed restrictions would require some development or construction on the parcel. What happens? Do you have a clawback, or how do you enforce that?
We haven't done it yet. We're going to do it on the next one that we do down by 40th Street. The clawback will simply be if you don't develop within 12 to 18 months, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, it's not super specific. It's just that you can't set on a vacant lot. Like, we're not going to allow you to do that. And we want right of first refusal to decide what you're going to put there. So we recently had a Dollar Tree approach us, and they wanted to buy one of our vacant commercial lots to build a Dollar Tree. And we said, no, you know, we don't want a Dollar Tree in our new downtown footprint. Thank you, but no. And so when we went into contract with the guy who is purchasing our acre of redeveloped land, we have 2 years. He cannot sell to anybody that we don't approve of. We're recently also trying to figure out a funding stream by the LRA getting 50% of all construction B&O that we do for commercial properties, as well as potentially, if we don't know if this is 100% doable, but we're trying to get 1%, 50% of the 1% sales tax that's generated at any lot that was developed because of the LRA's involvement. That's TBD, that's to be determined, but we're working on that.
Kim, have you all ever thought about being a developer on any of these lots?
Yeah, we have, but I think that when we started out originally back in 2019, that was very much one of a realistic goal that we had. And then the way that the market changed when COVID came and the inflation of the construction materials and the interest rates, it was no longer feasible that we, as the way we were created with the board, I have 5 board members, it did not make sense, and having a little bit more control, we might take less money, but we get more control over what is going in there. So that's kind of how we leverage that. Like, well, we'll take less money, but we want more say.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Kim, thank you again. One follow-up question. Did you apply the same strategy for residential properties? Like, did you require deed restrictions or make whoever was buying the property, because you were selling them at such a discounted rate?
No, it's not something that we had done in the past because, you know, houses in natural market in Nitro go really fast. Like, average house, 30, 45 days. Like, you literally cannot buy a house in Nitro right now. There's none available. So, with that being said, we knew that if somebody's buying a property, they're going to build a house on it. That's what they want. They want to build a house on it, or it's an adjacent property owner that wants to expand their footprint or control their neighborhood. And if you've been living beside of a dilapidated house for 20 years, 100%. I'm not going to begrudge you that. So we don't feel the need right now. I mean, I reserve the right to change that in the future if the board or the city sees fit. And I know, you know, Nitro's a little different. I mean, we're not Charleston, we're not Huntington, we're not even Morgantown. You know, we're a little different. But for our residents of 6,000, like, this is a good fit for what we need right now.
Thanks, Kim.
Kim, is this your full-time assignment, or do you have other boards and panels and commissions that you deal with?
I do a little bit of everything at the City of Nitro. I used to be our economic development nonprofit for the Nitro Development Authority. About 18 months into that job, the City of Nitro coached me and made me the city planner for the City of Nitro, and they changed the strategy and they took the economic development away from the Nitro Development Authority and turned that into community development, and they created the LRA, which I am the executive director of, and that is built into my job description. But we do economic development now. And so since then, honestly, the Development Authority has dissolved this past year, but the LRA is much more productive and functional than the, you know, anything else we've ever had. But I'm also the planning, the zoning and planning official. I also do a lot of other things. So, I mean, we're a small municipal, like, we don't have a lot of employees, so I have about 5 or 6 things that I do in my one role, but I am the only dedicated staff for the land reuse agency.
Great, thank you.
I have a quick question. You said you started with $1 million. Was that directly from the city, or was that grant funding? Was that federal funding? Where did that $1 million come from?
No. It was the city using their 1% sales tax to put back into their community for acquisition and demolition.
And from that original 1 million, have you looked at the return? So of that 1 million, you got some reimbursed from REAP, you got some reimbursed from new property acquisitions of the properties that you rehabbed. What did that look like from year to year?
Well, we haven't done that yet because we haven't sold the big piece of property that we used the majority of that $1 million. I mean, it would be sort of premature to have done it until we sell this piece that we're literally ready to go to close in like a week on. And when we do that, we will pay off the balloon on the houses that we bought from that really bad property owner, and we will have a little bit of profit. Well, I don't know if I can call it profit. We'll get a deposit in our bank account, but once this specific property is sold, then we are going to go back and use our new CPA and deputy treasurer are going to run a report to try to see exactly, so I can record those numbers, because right now we just don't have them.
Do you expect
But we
it?
will.
Do you expect it to even out, that the 1 million that they gave you?
I don't think we're walking away with a big profit, but I think that is a possibility that we can break even.
Okay.
I mean, I don't look to see any profit at all for a foreseeable future, but, you know, whenever a new business starts in Nitro, they get a gradual B&O, right? The first year it's $0, the second year, you know, it's a stair step. So the one thing we got from the Taco Bell was immediately 1% sales tax. So that helped, right? Because we got the B&O construction, which was maybe $45,000 or something like that. And then we got which paid for the demolition of it, right? And then we got 1% sales tax immediately after it opened. And it is one of the highest producing profitable Taco Bells in the Valley. And so we know that we made the right decision there. But even until we get businesses, because we think there will be 2 businesses built in that big lot that we're selling in the 1 acre lot. So that's a long-term gain, right? Like, we're going to get the construction from the B&O immediately. Then we're going to get the 1% sales tax immediately. And then the B&O, we won't even see that for fully for 5 years. So it's hard to say when it will pay off. But my new CPA, my new treasurer, deputy treasurer are very interested in tracking these goals and going back and working on these projects, because we do think it'll be a case study at some point, because we worked really hard and we used taxpayers' dollars to do it, but we had the support of our community and it paid off. So I think at some point, years from now, when they want to know what the ARPA money really did for West Virginia, I'm going to have a developed case study to show it.
That's great. One more question. The REAP reimbursement process, do you have to identify specific properties in advance for them and then wait for reimbursement after you've applied for it? Or do you conduct it and then get reimbursed?
The first thing you do is when you get your application in for the very first, to even get the award, you have to tell them what you want to do, right? And then they approve it, because you have to show that you've done all of your SHPO and all the stuff that you're required to do. And then once you have the authorization to proceed for demolition, in which you have to show your condemnation letters, your asbestos reports, all the things, right? And then they tell you when you're ready to go. And then once you have torn everything down and you have your invoices, you can submit them for reimbursement. And it typically, in the past, it took a couple weeks, but I've been waiting for over 6 weeks to get my first reimbursement in phase 2. And I talked to them today, and I really don't genuinely know what the holdup is, because I had a 2-week turnaround in phase 1. Because we were just paying and then waiting for the reimbursement. But it can get pretty pricey if you're doing multiple structures at a time, especially large commercial, we did 4 large commercial buildings.
So you said that you were strategic about your demo to save money. How was that you did that?
Because I had a friend over in St. Albans who was and St. Albans is our sister city, right? It's right across the bridge. And we're in a cooperative agreement with them for almost everything. And so myself and Marshall were running the program at the same time. And he wasn't really, and I'm not bashing him, I'm just using this as an example. I love Marshall, but he was just sending them to the worst house on the block of every block. And then they were going all over the town. And every time the demo contractor mobilizes, that's costing you money. Every time they have to drive back and forth to the landfill, that's costing you money out of your grant. So instead of going to the absolute worst of the worst and then going down the list, I did all of the houses on one block, and then all of the houses on one block. And then that way they can stay in the same spot for a week, 2 weeks, and they don't have to demobilize and mobilize every weekend or whatever. So my goal was way more strategic to where it was than the worst to the best, but the reason was because they were all coming down. What's one more month or one more week when I know it's coming down? So I didn't really care about getting the worst one done first, because ultimately all 24 were getting done.
I'm trying to follow up question. Kim, just to confirm or clarify, did you say you have a note through the agency? Did you finance or anything to any of the work that's been done up to this point, or did I hear that wrong?
No, we haven't financed anything.
Okay.
We can. It's written that way, that if we want to, we can get loans or take out bonds or, whatever we need to do. But with the city's support, we were getting funded $200,000 for the first few years, every year. And then in the past couple years, they stepped off. They have not funded us except for funding our tax sale acquisitions. So they give us $25,000 a year for the past 2 years to purchase tax liens, because that's important. Because if you don't control the property, then you have way less control over what the future of that property is. So they're never going to stop funding us for that. But we haven't had to take out a loan yet, but we certainly would if we needed to. We can, because we do get some residual income from rental agreements.
Kim, you said that you created a land bank with some of your acquisitions. Do you hold title to some of the property on which buildings have been constructed?
No, we've sold everything that has construction on it. But we have a lot of properties that are not viable properties that you can't do anything with. And then we also have vacant land that is commercial that is absolutely viable property, but we also are in the process of acquiring 4 or 5 more vacant lots that we can do something with as well. So we're not really in the market of being a commercial or residential landlord. We currently own municipal buildings, and we have tenants in the municipal buildings, but we're not trying to be landlords, because that's a nightmare. I know some places do it, but we're not interested in that.
Thank you.
Do you use any West Virginia housing development funding for residential properties?
No, my board, we don't, so I'll tell you that there's a lot of question about this and why we don't do that, because with all of that, you have to have a lot, seemingly, a quantity of vacant lots, or using the West Virginia build program for contractors is really great. If you have 6 lots or more, or you're spending millions of dollars, and that's just not our situation. I have maybe in total 3 vacant lots. They're 3,300 square feet, which is not ideal for building a house. And so a lot of times, it's just really not worth it. We're doing okay doing what we're doing, and we're also trying to get a good partnership with Habitat for Humanity so that we can give them or sell them at a very fair price one of our vacant lots. So at this time, we simply don't have the need for like the housing authority or any type of large build. We don't have the space for it. And I truly believe that if you were in Charleston or Huntington, I get it, you need it. But for here, we just haven't needed it yet.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Kim, thank you so much. This has been such good information. I guess I'm just wondering, is there anybody else in the state that you think we should talk to get some ideas from?
Well, I mean, I think that Charleston, if you're like looking for residential development, Charleston, John Butterworth is doing some really amazing things with affordable. We don't like affordable anymore. We like attainable housing, and he has a great program going up there. So I would say John Butterworth in Charleston, if you want to talk about the different type of programs that you can use. I mean, Taylor Bennett is obviously the director of the State Land Bank, and she's supremely knowledgeable about all things land banking in West Virginia. I mean, I really think that's my number one, that's my number two, contacts for all things in West Virginia. I think Fayette County's trying to do something pretty impressive with, and it's all about residential housing. I just think we have always been the different duckling in the group because we are focused on economic development, and no other land bank in West Virginia is looking at economic development. They're all focused on residential, and I support them wholeheartedly. It's just that just isn't feasible. We had way more commercial dysfunction than we did residential dysfunction, so we've got to wear a 50-50 hat. It just makes more sense for us. So residential, John Butterworth in Charleston, 100%.
Okay, thank you. We really appreciate your time. This, like I said.
I appreciate you guys having me. Also, I would say that, and you can get this contact through Taylor even, but the Center for Community Progress, we've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from them.
Okay.
We've gone to some, we went to St. Louis to the Reclaiming Vacant Properties this past year. Nitro got featured in their publication, and so we got a free kind of trip to go to that. So that was really amazing, and we learned a lot about housing and like how to redevelop old districts and complete cities in some cases of with housing. So I would always recommend making a connection to the Communities First Center, Communities for, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, I can't say it
Yeah,
for
we
some
got it.
reason. But Brian is the director, and he's fantastic. So I would be happy to send that to Jessica or whomever would like that contact. But those are my definite recommendations that have helped me the most.
Yeah, if you could send Brian's information to us, that'd be great. I have the other two. Thank you.
Yes, I will do that.
All right. Thanks so much, Kim. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Reports of officers and directors. Does anyone have a report? Okay. Reports of committees. I don't have one. Brent?
I met with Green Space Coalition and some of their partners in November just to get some general ideas in anticipation of our retreat and the kinds of priorities that they still have.
Oh, good.
So I'll be bringing those with me.
Okay. And Tim?
I appreciate the description of the committee work that's included in the packet that Caitlin prepared. Thank you for that. I'm looking forward to discussions at our workshop about what the committee does and how we can do it. I have no other report.
Okay. Let's see. City manager's not here. Ricky, do you have a report, or do you want to go later
Just
in
one,
the
what's one
agenda?
update that's not on the agenda
Okay.
is that we will be scheduling and working with, either we can do it at the underutilized property standing committee meeting in February to schedule a walkthrough of the property on Brockway, 637 or 638 East Brockway we just acquired from Ms. Bunner. So we can get that and schedule that meeting and walk through then.
Okay. Thank you.
It is 6:37, right?
Yes, the 637
you.
East Brockway.
East Brockway.
Yep.
We need to approve the minutes from the December 19th meeting. Does everybody had a chance to review those?
So moved.
Second.
All right, quick and dirty. I'm going to switch around the order of some of these things here because Adelheid has to leave at 5, and I want to make sure we get the things that we really need to do. So I'm going to move down to new business before we go through the old business list. Discussion and action on submitting a funding request to the city for fiscal year 2026. So I just want to give you guys an update on what happened at the end of the year was that the city finance director gave us the number that was left of the ARPA funds, and it was not, it did not match the number that I had based on keeping track of the funding we had been spending. And so, you know, all said and done, we have $249,936 left from ARPA funds. That left us a little bit short of what we thought we had. So from all of the properties that we are under contract on, we are still short $504,000 and some change. The city finance director is in the process of putting together the budget for the coming fiscal year. He asked me to give him an ask on Monday for what we want for this year. I gave him this number of 504 and then said I would bring it to you all for discussion. One thing is that every time we get these properties in, we've had legal costs that you would assume for closing, and then sometimes extra legal costs for like property research and stuff. So this number that I have is not going to cover all of those acquisitions, because you know there's going to be some extra incidental there. So I told him that in my email, like, this is the bottom line, we probably need to round up. So I guess I would just want to put it for discussion, what we want to ask for this year. Yeah, with that number.
So I understand, Jessica, just to meet our obligations, we need 504,000 from the city. That's just to meet what we've committed.
All of those deals are contingent on funding, so we can get out of anything that we want. But if we want to do this project as we've envisioned it, yes, that's where we are. Plus some change for closing costs and research, et cetera.
Leaving nothing for any projects anywhere else either.
That is correct.
And it's one thing I'm concerned about all along, is we get tunnel vision on the Greenlawn project. There's a lot of other work to be done all over the city.
Well, I mean, we do know that there's an earmark coming with, $2 million for Lower Greenmont, and yes, you're right, that is all one area. I think the counterpoint is, this is an area where we can sort of test, I don't know what metaphor to use here, wing something, we can try out like a project and practice on this area and then
Yeah,
expand
sure.
in the future.
And build some synergy too. I mean, I think
Right.
those are all good points.
I also think that, you have the grant. I also think after the retreat is a perfect time that we have new leadership in the agency to sit down with the interim city manager, finance director, Mr. Yeager, and the mayor and assistant mayor and say, here's where we are, here's the conversations we had, we know we have these obligations, we know we have these aspirations, we know we have this assignment. Could we talk about what all this looks like and that sort of thing?
I mean, I think so, except my concern is I want a number going into his consideration in time for them to really seriously consider it. I don't want to have to amend our request in March or April when they've really got their whole budget lined out. Yes.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just to expand on that, the finance director did ask for a number as soon as possible. So it would be best if we could give them something so they could work into the planning that they're in right now.
600 is a nice round number. Gives us 100,000 extra for contingencies and seed money to do the next project in wherever that might be.
Well, at least contingencies, yeah. That's a very fair contingency number.
And I guess my question, sorry.
The banker wants to
Yeah,
talk. Let's
go
hear it.
I don't recall the numbers, but does the 504 include the large property for us to begin affordable housing down there? So the
It
504
does.
includes that, and so the 2 million will be for other work down in the Greenmont area.
Yes, this number also does not include demo. We're counting on other funding for that, and that
Okay.
is yet to be determined, but could also come out of that earmark, I think.
Yes, on the $2 million mark, it could. But again,
Well, we're
I'm-
optimistic we're going to get that from the DEP, right?
yes, and I'll report on that, yes.
Removing the largest purchase out of there, how many properties does that leave that we do not have the money to close on, that we have purchase agreements for?
Well, that large purchase is 475, so what math is that? That's 30,000. So basically one.
One property.
One.
The
We
the
could kick
last
one out, yep. And then we would still be okay. That's a vacant property, and you don't necessarily have to build on it. I mean, it's just, it would be ideal to have that contiguous stretch. but
Our
that's where
goal
we
is
are.
to make this marketable,
Yeah.
make the whole assembled properties marketable, and I think that this is essential. That
Yeah.
piece is essential.
So we've got you've got 504 plus. Well, I mean, compared to Nitro at population 6,000,
Starting with $1 million.
starting with $1 million. We're giving a deal at 600,000.
Oh, I know.
Do you need that in form of a motion, Jessica, or do you want to just take the advice of the board?
Motion would be great.
I make the motion, we request $600,000 in the upcoming city budget.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I think that was my main concern on you being here for that, so we'll go back to the unfinished business now. The status of the Berthier estate donation.
Yeah, so I think I reported last time that Steve Prunty's kind of been assigned to work on this. Ryan, I talked to him this week, they are working through it. but they haven't had, the quitclaim deeds or anything hasn't been finalized yet. Our concern, though, is in the meantime, is that 565 Clark Street continues to fall into disrepair. So the thought is we're going to try to get an access agreement to be able to go ahead and demolish that while we're still working through this other stuff.
That sounds
So-
like a great idea.
Yep.
All right, so
Who's
do,
paying, excuse me, Jessica, and who's paying for the demo?
For 565 Clark, it would come from probably the DEP funds.
Okay, great, thank you.
so the next one is the demo of the other properties we've acquired. So do you want to just give us a status update on those DEP funds?
Yeah, so I checked with our chief building official, and asbestos sampling has been completed for both of those. We're going to start working on the bid documents for those two properties, 570 and 635. The good news is that we did get a grant extension from the DEP for the funds that were previously allocated, so that's great. And both 570, while 570 was on the initial approved list with the DEP, and Kim kind of alluded to this, when you apply, you have to give them a list of properties that they basically say, okay, sounds good. 635, 641 was not on that initial list. So we've applied and was just approved today that that property has now been approved and we can go ahead and move forward with it. So the plan would be, if it's fine with the board, is to move forward using the DEP funds on 570 and 635.
So my only question is, do you know, are you looking at that sheet to see how many other ones might be coming as we close on the remainder of the deals that we're already under contract on?
Yes, for sure.
Are there
And
more?
and I think that we're going to, even with like the two donated properties that the board accepted, the intention would be to utilize the DEP funds.
So it's just a matter of amending your agreement and including them?
Yes, and the other part that slows it a little bit down is the SHPO requirement that we talked about before, and we're working with our consultant to get those out the door on those properties.
So the strategy is to, as Kim was talking about, we're batching these together and deploying the demo
For those two,
contractor.
definitely, I think it makes sense. I know we're still working through the Walden property that has the PSA that we haven't been able to get through, but getting those two done at the same time makes sense.
I mean, is there any way to go ahead and demolish the ones that are under contract but haven't closed? I mean, is that a possibility?
We can look into that. We might want to look at, since we now own the 637, depending on what the committee says, that might be another one that we batch into it since we're working on the bid documents now.
Would you be able to just investigate everything that's under contract and
Sure.
see how that big picture looks so we don't waste money?
How many have we actually closed on at this point? How many properties?
4, 5? No, it's 6. 6 with Patricia's property.
Out of, what's the total?
I don't have that spreadsheet right in front of me. But we've closed on 6 at least.
Probably 5 not closed,
5 not closed?
I'd have to look it up.
not counting.
Do you really want this answer? I can find it for
Right,
you.
not counting him.
Probably 5.
So what Jessica's asking for, I'm sorry, you're doing something.
Yes, sir.
What Jessica's asking for is possibility to get the similar access agreement that we're getting at 565 Clark for all these other properties that we've not closed on, right?
We could, I'm not, and I'll talk to Ryan about that and report back out just an email to the group if that's possible. Yeah. But we know it's just a matter of whatever the legalities of getting those properties transferred, getting the liens released, those type of things for the Berthie. It's a little different on like probably Walden and those other ones that we, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I just
You're
want to make
welcome.
sure they're all on your radar, that's all.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, cool. So next on the list, data collection on the properties in Lower Greenmont.
We'll turn it over to Caitlin here to provide an update. Caitlin's been working with our chief building official on that effort.
I don't know that I have a significant update to provide. I think Jessica shared a spreadsheet with me on a lot of the stuff that you've been working on, which I shared with Drew, who's the chief building official, to continue to build that out. At our staff meeting this morning, he said that he's working on that effort, and there's not really a more robust update right now.
What's the objective, Caitlin? What's the end product that you're working towards?
The objective to have a complete inventory of everything in that area and the status of it. Is it vacant? Is it rental unit? Is it, owner occupied, et cetera, so that we have a big picture sort of the on-the-ground status of all the properties in the area.
All the way down Pennsylvania, as we were
Correct,
talking
yep.
about, and Brockway as well.
Right. And if I may just add to that, that may help having that baseline baseline, that inventory will help us when we get to the planning phase on that $2 million, because it does have a planning component.
So
Some of
that's where that
feedback.
came from, was that Chris suggested we do that basic conditions report?
Yep.
So we amended our initial section to be all the way down to the Walnut Street Bridge, so it's all of that area down there that sort of needs to be looked at.
Thank
Some
you
of
for
that
working
started from the White Avenue Park project and sort of trying to figure out what some of the demographic information looked like in the area for that. So it's got multiple benefits, hopefully, of collecting that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's what I heard from Drew today. So, yeah, not too much to report right now.
And visually, once we get it mapped, working with Marvin Davis, our geospatial manager, it's going to be, I mean, you guys, it's going to be incredible. It'll be a great resource.
That's the talent.
Yep.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Yeah.
All right, we already talked about reconciliation of the ARPA funds. How about the status of the Moonlight Market lease?
Fully executed.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Took a little bit with the cold weather and the snow to get everybody in, but it's done.
All right. Then we had notice of the committee meetings. Were you able to do that?
They are done. They'll be posted tomorrow or on Monday.
Perfect, thank you.
One update, the one thing I did talk to our legal counsel about is that once we fill this out and actually have actionable agenda items, we will have to update those, but they will give us just we'll have to provide a day notice instead of the 2. So that will certainly help us.
Okay,
So,
cool.
you're welcome.
And then transfer of city-owned properties. We had that list of 23 properties. Ryan said he was going to present that to council and ask about doing that. Do you know what's?
There's no other update. I know he's working on it, though.
Okay. He did tell me last week that he had just done that.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the only update I have.
Could you see if you can put that on their agenda for next month? Is
I mean,
that
that's-
possible, or are we waiting for a response from them?
I think probably waiting for a response. I mean, I can, when they do their council meeting packets, I mean, that could be brought up, but again, that's up to the council.
Could you tell them that we'd really like to do that?
I think that's been shared.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
All right, 430 Spruce Street. We wanted to advertise that for lease.
I want to go back. So what's, to the transfer of city properties, what's the holdup? What's the problem? Has anybody voiced a specific objection to the theory, the concept that we would manage these properties and make them more productive?
To be honest, sir, I do not know.
So the conversation was, well, if you can dispose of one, will you be coming back to us for final approval?
No.
And we said, well, then that defeats the purpose.
Yeah, what's the point?
And so the conversation was, well, so what's anticipated on this sheet? I don't know. And so it was just a sort of the realization that if you turn those over, that there is a degree of control that's lost.
No, trust. We're looking for some trust here, huh?
But I mean, but it was the kind of thing, if you guys remember, we started with 80. I mean, we thought we winnowed the ones that may have specific use, purpose, and future out of the list. So, I mean, what we're talking about is the corner, the side lots that Kim talked about. The corner that's abutting Addo Hyde's house, and we say, would you like to take it and put it back on the tax roll? No.
Right.
So the 23 are modest at best, but it really gets down to the place of, this would be a new idea that they would literally give them to us with the final say and final disposition under our control.
I mean, it just seems the fact is that they're not able or willing to actively manage all the real estate that they own, that the city owns. And we're here to do that for them, consistent with the guidance they give us.
And frankly, I feel like it fell off the radar, and that's why I'm asking you to push the conversation, because I don't know what it means when he sends it to council, but I just want to make sure that it's being followed up on, so.
He has.
Okay.
When we give them the list, are we giving them a list of the intended use as well? The property address and intended use?
No, that was going to be what we do after.
No, I mean,
the whole point was we get them, we have these things to hold, and then we start disposing of them to make money or to like just improve the situation with those properties.
I would describe them as odd lots.
Right.
Literally as odd lots. I'd say most of them are unbuildable, right?
I mean, it's been years. I don't remember this list.
But I mean, it's the kind of thing that when we started the list,
Right?
there were parcels that you would say, oh, we should put a XYZ on that, or we should put a whatever on it, and that sort of thing. And that would have been something that would have been more, there would have been more to chance and that sort of thing. What I think we went it down to was very small parcels that are odd lots and that sort of thing. And I think the number one thing would be is to contact the neighbors and see if you're willing to purchase it or assume it or something like that. I mean, there were a couple on edges of neighborhoods that they were half lot that just had been abandoned.
Dave, I don't want anybody to understand that I'm criticizing the city council. That's not what I'm saying.
no.
This is minutia compared to what they have to manage.
Right.
And we can do it for them. They have to let us do it.
Right.
It's, to me, just in all fairness, it does seem like we asked the question, they came back and said, well, how do we know what you're going to do with this? We've been burned before by
I don't
other
think
entities.
that really is the conversation. I mean, they went through it painstakingly, not once but twice with us, agreed on all of these properties, and it just hasn't happened. I don't think it was a matter of, we don't know what you're going to do. We told them what we plan to do.
So they do know what we're
Yes.
planning.
We had multiple meetings going property by property.
Okay,
Yes,
No,
literally.
Yeah.
We did, yes.
okay. So we think we've surpassed that, and then
Yeah.
it fell off the radar.
I think
Okay, well, that's different.
Did they do anything with the properties that they retained? Did they have plans for the properties that they had no interest in giving the agency?
No,
So should we maybe reevaluate the list of properties?
one thing at a time.
Because if they want us to be able to fund ourselves, I feel like if they're just keeping the best properties and doing nothing with them, then maybe we should.
Absolutely agree. There are so many of these properties that can be useful for so many different things. Green space, stormwater management, neighbors' yards, all those things. And to say.
And the idea of swapping, I mean, I like the idea of swapping too. Like, we know somebody needs this, and we've got this, and let's meet up, you know?
But I see Jessica's point, though. That's small steps.
Yes, I agree completely. But part of it is what I would call would be a shadow property, is that we're walking down Pennsylvania, you go, A, B, C, well, who owns D? The city, and you go, oh. Well, we already own that one. You go, oh, okay, so we just need to transfer. So there's properties like that you just don't stumble on unless you're the neighbor.
However, I think with the new map that Marvin has been
Oh,
putting
yeah.
together, we're going to suddenly see where all these properties are. And so if we want to be like, oh, hey, how about this one? We can do that now, instead of having this nebulous lack of knowledge about what the city owns.
Because I think one of the points that we did make was that putting them back into reuse is good, but it also lessens liability for the city. That somebody could fall and get hurt on a city-owned property and we not know that the city owns it, and they hold the liability. That in many ways, I mean, getting this back into reuse, that somebody's going to mow it, somebody's going to be responsible for it, somebody's going to insure it, somebody's going to, you know, all that stuff is a good thing. It's just a good thing. Even if we don't make a ton of money, it's a good thing to get them back into a useful setting.
Well, and the city sitting on a property for 10 years and not doing anything isn't any better than the guy in Florida that's sitting on a property that doesn't maintain it. So
Because I would say most of these are vacant lots, right?
vacant lots, some of them have a lot of trash dumped on them. I gotta go.
Okay.
Thanks for being the vice chair.
Yes, yes.
All right, 430 Spruce Street.
No, I put together sort of a draft Facebook post for 430 Spruce. I think there are some things that need updated in terms of maybe the rental rates. I don't know exactly what some of the specifics were with that. So if there's anything in that needs updated, I'm happy to change it. And then you had some notes for me as well on that. I think this is an earlier draft. So, yeah, that is in this packet for you guys to review, and I can take that off to communications whenever we're ready to make moves on that.
Have they seen that? I don't know if they communicate.
Communications, I have not sent them this Facebook post yet, no.
The other thing we needed to update is the graphic for the layout of the
Yes.
space with the rates. So that change has not been made, it will get made, and then the brochure that we presented last time will be ready to go.
So could we have like a feasible deadline that you could get this posted by?
I can do this, I mean, I can finish making edits to this, this afternoon or whatever. This isn't very long, but I don't know how long communications will take to get it up. But I can just keep you posted and CC you on the
Like, do you think we could get it by the end of the month?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was going to say next week.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could do that, that'd be great. And if you
Yeah.
don't mind, like, sharing with us in an email so we
course.
can, like, share on our networks? Yeah?
Yeah, Shannon's been really responsive about that, so I'm sure.
When I saw the per office rents, I mean, this is very attractive. I mean, for folks who are looking for an office and that sort of thing, I mean, this is very attractive. I mean, I think if we market it in the right way, we will get some play in that sort of thing. I think you'll get a mix of professionals and folks who need a place to hang a hat and have a meeting and that sort of thing, and it should be very attractive space.
Yeah, I hadn't really gone through to be honest, I hadn't gone through the brochure until I started typing up the specifics of this, but was thinking, yeah, this is a great opportunity. The rental rate's super fair. I'd be surprised if you didn't get somebody very quickly on that. And like, I wonder if you have somebody in mind, like a type of business in mind or anything like that you'd like to
We
attract?
just like to rent the space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, optimally, the rental space, which I think by virtue of, who's going to want this, is going to be either in nonprofits that are aligned with our mission statement, right? Or small businesses. And I don't
I
see
just feel
anybody
like we're not gonna-
outside of that footprint.
We're not going to eliminate, I think, options is my personal thing. Like, sure, we can offer it, but I feel like it's a first come, first served. I mean, it's been sitting. Yeah.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, one of the things we've been collecting until we made the decision to make it available to for-profit entities, we had several folks, small businesses, small LLCs, one or two people reach out to us. So we will send this new information back out and say, if
Perfect.
you're still interested, let's go.
That'd be great.
Is this something that you can put on, like Zillow and things like that too, or is that outside of the purview of what they're able to do with communications? And like Realtor.com and things like that?
I'd want to check with them and then also like map and see what they're able to help, what they're able to help market the property as well.
Yeah.
And
That might be
Has
another
that website,
outlet.
but I think you're right. I think you want to get it onto a regular site that people are going to see. And sorry, Laura, I don't mean to like say that we are not doing that. I just feel like that's what we've said for so long, and we haven't gotten any takers, and here we are again. So like, we can
We
say-
rejected some small businesses, though?
Pardon me?
We rejected some small businesses, though?
Not rejected, but we didn't go any further with them because it was only set up for nonprofits. That was the way that it was leased. So then we went through the process with the
I
property
didn't know
management.
that we were trying to limit it to just nonprofits previously.
Initially, that was, and we talked about that in the property management committee, and that
Okay.
was decided then to open it back up.
Okay.
But you might want to look at LinkedIn. I mean, what this seems perfect.
Yeah, put it on
for-
all the things.
What it seems perfect for is somebody who's starting a consulting company or small
Yeah,
business.
that's true.
And doesn't want to use their home address as their business address.
Right.
Who wants to have a business footprint or space.
Certainly.
I think at Realtor.com, you have to be a realtor in order to post there, so it can't go there. But I do think that Loop, I think it's called Loop, may be a place
You have
where
to
we
have an
can
account.
independently do. I would say that this is an appropriate use of funds if we
Yeah.
wanted to pay for a listing on Loop.
I think it's like LoopNet.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
commercial
that's-
property.
So, and I think that that's small enough that we don't necessarily need to vote on it.
No, you guys just put it wherever you think. I mean,
If
I would
we
love
need
to
to
see it on
expense funds.
multiple.
Yeah, I think, as long as it's under $500, it would be
Sure.
worth it.
And I think Zillow too, probably, it's not going to cost that much. It might cost a little bit, but
Okay, yeah, I'll just, I'll send an email to Shannon with communications, and I'll ask her, if we can go ahead and kind of spread out where we post this other than just Facebook. So-
The other place, maybe the Chamber of Commerce's newsletter
Okay, yeah.
and Main Street Morgantown's.
And this is attractive space. It really is.
it has windows.
Well, and that too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. right, anything else on that?
Thank you, Caitlin.
All right. There's an item on discussion or action on proposed bank signatures for the agency.
Right, so right now, it's my understanding, talking to our finance department, that the officers of the board, as well as the city manager, are the only ones that can sign checks or move monies around from Community or United Bank into accounts payable that the city pays the bills with. Because that has been maybe not as timely in getting signatures on things, the request is that we include, obviously, the officers of the board, as well as the city manager, the assistant city manager, the finance director, and the assistant finance director would be authorized to move funds into different accounts to take care of the agency's business.
All right, can we have a motion to?
Where was there a delay?
And getting some of the signatures that were needed.
Where, like, I don't recall being unable to respond to something.
Okay.
I'm just wondering where the delay was happening?
I think just,
Or is it that you want to handle it
We wanna
within the
make-
city
yes.
without reaching out to board members?
well, I don't know if you or other board members were contacted. Maybe it was just dealt with in city administration, and that was the issue of getting the people to sign off that needed to, but that's why these additional folks are being asked to place on them.
It's inconvenient to have citizen volunteers participate in something like this.
Pardon me?
It's inconvenient, I get that. But on the other hand, we're the ones that are responsible for how this money gets spent and where it goes.
Sure.
right?
But you're talking about moving money between accounts, right?
Right, but only on actionable items that the agency needs to
I
pay.
think it's more of a formality than
Oh,
a
Fair
spending.
enough, I get it, okay.
It is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is it? Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure
I-
that
talked
it
about
is.
I can't
expenditures.
remember, I wasn't on the signature card, I don't think. I was on it for everything except bank accounts, I think.
do it?
Then it may just been the city manager that was on it.
Yeah, Laura, I'm not sure you and I ever had, you and I
Yeah.
and Patrick or Adelheid signed a number of the things that required treasurer.
Leases, but
Yeah.
not,
But I don't know that we ever went to a commercial bank and did anything for bank.
yeah.
I wasn't on
True.
that for sure.
So we're not currently signatures.
I don't believe I am.
I don't recall doing it either.
So we're just asking for more administrative people to be able to transfer money
Correct.
between accounts.
My
Is that the
understanding,
phrasing, is transfer money between accounts?
But yeah, and transferring money, correct me if I'm wrong, but transferring money between accounts is essentially spending money, right?
Yeah.
Move
It's
money.
a transaction.
It's a transaction.
But he's saying only on approved transactions that board has
That
already
we've approved,
considered.
right.
Okay,
I mean, am I misunderstanding?
No, you're not.
Okay.
okay. I'm just very prickly about our role here.
I understand.
As I really should be.
We didn't notice.
But I get that. I get
Okay.
the point. Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. So, next item is descriptions for the agency committees. I asked for this because we have 3 committees, 2 of them seem to kind of overlap. We can either talk about this now, or we can save this for the retreat, depending on what you guys think. But to me, and Caitlin, who drafted the descriptions, the Property Management Committee and the Underutilized Properties Committee are really similar. And I feel like in the meetings, Ricky has presented the exact same information to both committees, which I was on, so I knew that. And so I just wanted to see if we could streamline and like define these a little better and consider whether we need all 3 or if we can differentiate them.
I think you framed the issue well. If we could just defer this discussion until our workshop, I think we would be done with this thing.
I would agree that it might be more useful to talk about what the committee should be doing after we have a really good tight action plan.
Okay.
What we want to accomplish, it might be better to divvy things up. But in my mind, just really loosely, property management was a property that was already under our control, and City and Underutilized Properties Committee was about identifying properties to put under our control, was more about the
It's the 23 properties that they won't give us. That's.
Well, it's those
Bingo.
23, but it's also,
Amen. You got it.
the Greenmont properties that,
Yeah.
as we identify them.
And I'd
So-
include the MUB properties in there as well, but that's a whole different discussion, but I agree.
So,
I mean, if you
Where
look
we
at
don't
it, this
have-
is management and this is disposition.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, basically.
So, I mean, that could be it. Like, I just think going forward, if we're
That's how
looking
I-
at acquiring something, you don't need to present that to the property management committee. The property management committee should just be talking about what we already own.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And that will probably simplify.
I'd like some time to think about this, maybe.
We can table it then and talk about it at the retreat. Okay, next item. So Caitlin has been working hard, and she put together an awesome flyer about donating property to the Land Reuse Agency, and she's also been working on making the donation form like a fillable PDF instead of a paper version. So do you want to give us a little update?
Yes, so communications, again, they have done the PDF. So now you no longer have to do a physical form to turn in person. If you are someone in Florida, for example, you can fill it out, a donation form online on the website and submit it that way. So that's good. And then I drafted this as well for the website, just to kind of, I guess, sort of cover why someone might want to do it, what the incentives are behind donating, and to make it seem appealing. So that's essentially what this is, and, would be happy to take your comments on that. But, yeah, just in the interest of furthering, the ease of receiving donations and garnering interest in getting them. And so, yeah.
Looks great. You're a good writer.
No, thank you.
Very well written.
Yeah, you are. Anyone else have comments?
We might add "and preservation" to the name.
Okay.
One of the things, Madam Chair, is we're also obviously having legal to take a look at to make sure everything
That's-
the way it
yes.
works is being done.
Yep.
And then the other thing we might want to add to is just like the process. So if you do apply, here's the meeting with the underutilized property committee. Here is the hearing with the board. Here is the next, just to kind of lay it out visually, what that
Well,
looks like.
I don't know, it would scare them off with the process.
That's true.
Maybe just 1-800-Ricky Yeager. And then you can sell it.
Oh, boy, that's a deal. I haven't heard that before.
I do think of it as a stage 2. If somebody's interested, then send them the follow-up with the instructions.
Then sell
like
it.
that. I
Also
like that.
useful.
But I do
We'll get the hook
think
in first.
it's a good point, and if you want to do like some sort of graphic or something that would show them like the steps they're going to walk through to do that,
Yeah.
I think that would be great.
I don't know, I would prefer just, this is gonna be really easy for you.
Step, like second step, like
Oh, the
this
second
could be
step.
public
Th-
facing.
Thank you
but,
for
like,
reaching out.
you know.
Here is the.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that you can publicize this somehow, like put it out on like social media and whatnot so people know?
So, yeah, so legal has looked at this already and reviewed it and given the thumbs up on that. So this is another thing I can turn over to communications again and just see if they can give a strategy on how to present that. And,
Okay.
yeah, I'll just keep you on the emails, so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
I was a little surprised about the line under the tax advantages, that these credits can be applied over several years. I didn't know that that extended beyond formal conservation easements. I know there's a special section of the IRS law that refers to conservation easements, but it doesn't usually apply to the donation of outright land.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so has that been
So
double
what,
checked?
So let me just ask, so in the donation situation, you have to take it in the year that it's donated?
Normally.
Yeah, I think that's right, I think that's right.
I don't claim to be knowledgeable about that. What I took from here was what was on the Land Reuse Agency's website already, and then shared that with Ryan, and he said to just use what you guys already had on there. So, yeah.
What the heck?
We may need to look at that again.
So that, yeah, I mean, if that needs a little bit more research, then yeah, we can.
Yeah, let's look at that sentence, and
okay.
otherwise this is great.
We can take a look at that.
I mean, you could also just eliminate that part. Like, we don't have to
Yeah.
tell them all of the details.
Yeah,
you
certainly.
know,
I
Tax
don't-
benefits could come to you.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Federal and state, right?
I tried to keep it vague because, I don't know that we want to go through all the details in this
Yeah, I
promotional
don't-
material anyway, so,
I
yeah.
don't think there are I don't think there are state tax credits
No
for
state-
any
no state.
donations.
So maybe just remove that whole sentence.
Okay, yeah, let's just take it out, let's not even worry about it.
Okay, all right.
Yep,
Or put a number of a good tax attorney.
there you go.
Thank you for putting this together. This
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
of
very
course.
exciting. We're happy to
Absolutely.
have it.
Relatedly, I think I know the answer to this, but we have a couple of donated properties that are either in flux right now or that we have accepted. Do we feel that we are at a place now, or do we want to wait until after our Greenmont project is further fleshed out before we have some sort of celebration of these people who donated property?
I don't know. That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. I think based on Kim's comment, we also might want to look at whether there's a requirement that we have all the properties we own on the website.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I wondered that too.
So maybe we need to work on that too in the next month.
Another thing she raised that I thought was interesting was her innovative statistics that they were drawing from law enforcement and things like that. That's
was good
super
information.
impactful, and I feel,
It'd be great to just get the police department to tell us.
yeah,
what to
and
call
would,
it.
and would perk people's ear, I don't know if that's the right term, but, would draw attention to people who might not normally care about those kinds of things.
You remember the gentleman that came in and said, I have these children living here, seeing that, that one's one we've purchased and now it's vacant. It's not down, but it's vacant. So hopefully that's improved, and absolutely.
I think
that's
after
a
we
big-
tear them
that's
down, we
one of
should
the
get
big
those
selling
stats,
points.
wait a few months and see what it looks like.
Removing the nuisance is the first thing, that's very positive.
For sure. So I don't think, you haven't all seen this yet, but Caitlin's also been working on a graphic for us that shows like all the different projects that are happening around this Greenmont neighborhood, just so we can, I think eventually work on publicizing this, but I think this could be a good thing as a start for the planning for the retreat too.
Yeah.
So
Can you
we'll,
give one to Ben, Ricky?
I didn't print off enough. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared. But, yeah, just with the idea of kind of selling the vision of Lower Greenmont. I use the phrase growing Greenmont there. It's kind of cheesy, but.
That's a great hang.
no, you're good
Well-
at this. This is great.
Really a great hang.
Oh, well, thanks. But yeah, just as sort of a way to say, here's what the picture is for the future, or here's what's ongoing right now.
Ben,
So-
consider it a draft, please.
Yeah, so one of the things that came out of my conversation with Barbara Parsons, the chair of the MUB board, was, yeah, we know we have these CSOs in Deckers Creek, but we've got lots of CSOs and we've got limited funding, and like, where's your vision? So I feel like this
What's
is.
a CSO?
Oh, sorry, the combined sewage overflow that makes it smell bad. When it rains, the sewage get combined. So I think that this is the kind of thing we could present to community groups and say, hey, we're working really hard on this. We want you to put your eyes on this area now too. And like, maybe this is an incentive for them to focus their funding here as opposed to somewhere else.
Well, and we've talked about, Caitlin and I, when that graphic was put together, it's a great way to also communicate with all those other stakeholders. Not just
Yeah.
the agency, but say, hey, look what we're also working, you know what I mean? So it works both ways. Yeah.
So, certainly, and I feel like Main Street's right now trying to really pull in all the different groups and get them to like talk and share and coordinate. And so we, I think, are just one of those players that, Friends of Deckers, Mon River Trails, we're all in this together. And so trying to represent that with this image. So if anybody didn't get a copy, maybe Caitlin, do you want to send it to everybody?
Certainly.
And then we can give you feedback?
And there are more things that can be added to that. There are connections with the proposed green belt that fall into, or touch on areas in Greenmont that can be added to that will be assets as well. So there are more things that can be added, and, there's room to flesh that out, I think, a little bit further. So, and I see typos in that already, so I think there's some revisions that need. Yeah. I know.
So don't publish that. All right.
I'm a little confused. Is that Monongalia? What is that in the, is that?
I took it from Parcel Viewer, and I do not know how to get that Monongalia to go away, but that might be something I can explore in Photoshop. Yeah.
That might just be the county label for the.
That's funny.
Yeah, I took the parcel labels off and the tax labels off, and that Monongalia wouldn't go away, so.
It wouldn't go away.
No, couldn't get it off of there.
All right. Anything else to come before the board? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.